Did just tell us a little bit about yourself, your experiences, about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, broadly, I am a computational biologist. I was trained as a lab scientist. My undergrad is in molecular and cell biology. And while I was working in the lab in between undergrad and grad school, I realized that biology field in general is generating all this huge data, sequencing data at the molecular level from cells and organisms and tissues. So the best way to analyze that type of data is through computational methods. So I started teaching myself Python and how to code. And when I decided to go back to school for my PhD, I wanted to do it in a computational field and really get well trained there. So I did my PhD in biomolecular engineering with a focus in bioinformatics, which is computational methods. And I did some machine learning and AI in my PhD as well. But then when I got to the NASA space biology program, I was supporting a project in a data repository called GeneLab. And again, a wealth of data, a wealth of scientific information that is best analyzed through computational methods. So in this case, the question was, how do humans and animals deal with the pressures of spaceflight? What changes at the molecular level? So at NASA, I co founded an AI research group. So we were using the cutting edge methods and applying it to this rare and precious space biology data. Um, and then after leaving NASA about a year ago, I am now employed at Colossal Biosciences, which is the de extinction company, where I am a senior scientist in computational biology working on AI. And that's all I can say about that since all that work is private.
Wow. De-extinction company. Wow.
Yes,
That sounds
Oh
really
my goodness, yeah,
interesting.
that's really wow.
they have
Okay.
a very cool website that you can go look at with all their
Oh yeah,
public
we'll definitely
We'll
check
information.
that
do, we'll
out.
do.
Yeah. And we're also just curious too because like in your career, like you have like leadership experience. Like what is like your leadership philosophy?
Oh, that's a great question. I do have a lot of leadership experience and I love leadership and management in general. That's actually one of the reasons I decided to go back to school and get my PhD because I was doing work in the lab and I realized my favorite part was having those ideas, getting curious about something, and then being able to follow through on it, being able to do the experiment or run the analysis myself and see that outcome instead of having to go on someone else's agenda, which is fine when you're being trained and you're young. But I really wanted to be kind of in that leadership position of having ideas and running experiments. So I did a lot of leadership at NASA and I learned a lot. I think that my leadership philosophy is built on a couple different important points. One is that while I love having those ideas and running analysis, I want everyone on the team to also feel that same curiosity and drive and fire. So I want everyone to feel independent to the extent that they are able to like put their skills into place. So giving everyone a chance to thrive on the team. So that's one big aspect of my leadership philosophy. And the other is making sure that as a team we're always growing and moving towards a goal. So we're not too scattered, we're not going all over the place. We everyone feels unified, excited about like this is where we're going as a team, this is the vision. So balancing those two, where everyone has something they're curious about and interested in individually, but then also as a team, we are unified. Those are the two things that I tried to balance, and I think are very important for leadership.
Well, those are really great responses. I know, like,
Yeah.
we've been in teams before, and then I think having a great leader, like, makes all the difference when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to, like, how far do you get as a team and, like, team culture in itself.
Yeah, and you're
I
definitely
agree.
right. It's like good to balance like individual, but then also at the same time putting everything together for the team, like the goal in the end. That's really good.
Yeah. Because there's definitely, like, leaders out there who, like, try to do everything themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, I tried to stay away from that. I want everyone to have part of the puzzle, but then I'm always there to help out, fill in the blanks, or answer questions.
Mm, wow. And since you've been at like the forefront of innovation and have so much experience in all this, like if you had to pick one, what would be your most favorite or innovative project by far?
Um, that is, it's so hard to pick between everything that I've done. So I can't, unfortunately, talk about any of my work at Colossal. Hopefully, it'll come out at some point and you'll be able to see it. But picking from the projects that I've done at NASA, there was one study in particular. Well, so there have been a couple that use the same tool, and so I'll kind of talk about this tool and why it's so exciting. So while I was at NASA, I helped a team develop a tool called CRISP, which specifically focuses on causal inference. So when you're looking at a biological network, you can say, oh, this gene or this protein is correlated. It's related to the outcome. It seems to always be expressed whenever we see this outcome in the patient or the mouse or whatever. But does it cause that outcome? That's really hard to, when you're just looking at like a mathematical analysis of the data. That's a hard thing to pinpoint. And so we were trying to zero in on that. We developed this tool using machine learning. It's a causal ensemble of multiple machine learning methods. They all run causal inference and they vote on which of the features seem to be the most causally related to the outcome. And then we did a couple of really cool projects with that. So the one project in particular I really loved because it related gene expression. So how genes are upregulated or downregulated in space, and related it to images of the liver of mice that had been sent to space, and whether those images showed the mice were having a fatty liver or not so fatty liver. So mice tend to retain fat in space because it's a stressful environment. So I love that project because it linked two very different types of data. And often we kind of get stuck with just the one type of data because we know how to work with it and we know the pipeline works. But one of my big focuses at the AI group at NASA was multimodal data. So different types, different modes of data, because we are not one type of data. We have so many different, even as humans, we intake so many different types of data, text, images, numbers, sound, smell. So I was thinking, the machine learning models will benefit from as much different types of data as possible. So that's why I love that project.
That's so cool because like I know like multimodal AI is like really a big part, because I know like even at school people are always, it's a bad thing, but always uploading assignments, images to like the chat models, and then also talking via text. And sometimes I think even ChatGPT has like a voice thing where you can like talk to it now, right? So I think
that's right.
that's really interesting. And you saying crisp reminded me of CRISPR.
Yes. So that I think was a very well chosen name because it is very similar to CRISPR.
Oh, that's so smart. It's so smart.
And then we're just wondering too, because like for the future of emerging students, what are some like skills that you think are like most important to have like in your industry and just like for the future of like innovation and technology in general? What do you think?
Yeah. So I was hoping you weren't going to ask me this question because the field is moving so quickly that like 5 years ago, 3 years ago, my answer to this question would have been totally different. And I feel like in 2 or 3 years, my answer is going to change. So I actually have an almost 2-year-old son, and I'm thinking like, do I start him in Python when he's 3?
Oh my God.
What does life look like for a child living in the AI age? So I think that kind of big picture, the answer that I've arrived at is that adaptability is going to be the biggest skill that someone can have, right? So like, I think it's awesome to pick, a major, pick a department, pick a focus that you're really interested in doing for the rest of your life, but realize that, professors in the biology departments might have never learned to code because that wasn't a thing when they went to school. And now they're using ChatGPT. Like the world has changed just so differently that being able to keep up, adapt, move quickly, what's the next skill, what's the next tool, not getting too attached to one workflow or one approach. And also being able to evaluate, like on the other side of that, being able to evaluate, oh, there's this big new thing. Is this just a bunch of show? Like, should I really invest my time in this? So just, I think there's gonna, we're, as humans, we're gonna need to use a lot of wisdom, like our innate wisdom now, in figuring out where we want to put our time, when we need to change directions, when we need to know we're going to stick to what we're doing here. So that is probably not the answer you were expecting.
It's a great answer,
but
though.
Yeah.
It's a great
yeah,
answer, though.
thank you.
My dad always tells me, like, so I was like, we both went to the same middle school, and at our middle school, like, they had like a subject for Python
Yeah.
specifically.
Nice.
And then like I was since then we've always been interested in that kind of stuff, right? So, but like my dad would always say, like, I don't know about like you like focusing on this, because like what if like AI can code everything for you, you know?
Exactly. So like that's why right now I'm like, I know how to code in Python, and I'm very grateful that I do, because when I'm using, an AI agent to help me, I can evaluate its output. But it took me 2 or 3 years, to get to the point where I felt like I was fluent in Python back when I was in school. If I tell a student to do that, how much of a waste is that if literally through prompt engineering they can generate the code that they like?
Yeah.
How maybe a crash course in Python over the summer, so that you kind of what you're looking at,
Yeah.
but not getting to the point like. But that's the thing. I don't want to be on record giving this advice
Yeah.
yet, because I just don't feel like I understand where the future is very
That's
well
fair,
yet.
because it's so like there's so many things like going on at once, right? You don't know which way it's gonna take a turn.
Changing so quickly.
Yeah.
Also, I feel
Yeah,
like sometimes if you have AI generate code, you can also ask it to evaluate itself.
I know.
So-
So it might be pointless even for you
Yeah,
to be able to do.
there's like no right answer. Like I guess it's just your
Yeah.
preference. Like what do you feel most comfortable doing?
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
All right, and so you've talked about your work, and given the fact that you've worked at Blue Marble, what do you think the future of AI in space specifically looks like?
Yes. So I'm hopeful that AI is going to be deployed in space much more than it already has. So there's very little AI in space right now, but I think it would solve a lot of the problems that we have. So I actually wrote 2 review papers on this, like summarizing the state of the field and where the future is going, specifically for space biosciences and medicine, when I was at NASA. So some of the things we talked about were having an automated agent that can monitor all the vital signs of an astronaut from the astronaut suit, detect anomalies, and suggest approaches, like check your blood for an infection, then take antibiotics or something like that. Another great place for AI is automating small surgical interventions, like taking blood, for example, or analyzing the output of a handheld ultrasound probe, or like directing the astronaut, hold it in this area over your heart. Data analysis. So there's a ton of data that comes from an astronaut suit, that comes from the surrounding environment, and automated systems that can monitor those readouts and detect anomalies to alert the astronauts. And then AI for unsupervised missions, where there are no humans there at all, but we're picking up, rocks or soil or something from Mars, or we're even taking biological experiments there and monitoring them. That's also a great place for AI. So I think, yeah, I would love to see more AI in space, and have it be kind of proved out and figure out where the boundaries of its capabilities are, because I think we don't know that yet. But I think there are so many places, especially for like biosciences and medicine and health in space.
That's so interesting. I was just wondering, right? Because you said that if you load an AI up with, or you train the AI on data that's like, let's say you train an AI on all like human data and you make it think like a human, and then you deploy that AI on an unmanned mission. Is that mission still unmanned? Like,
That's an interesting question.
Or can it do
It
everything?
knows everything. Probably
knows?
knows more than a human would at that point.
Yeah. So isn't it like even better than a manned mission?
Yeah, we need a new word now.
Automated mission.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I love that.
that'd be a good idea though. Like I know like sending like man up to space is like important and everything, but like I know certain missions are like infeasible, right? Obviously because of all the factors.
Yeah.
But if you like make some kind of like AI to like mimic the human, like obviously that's dangerous because you don't want to have like
Yeah.
robots like being able to think smarter than you, then you
That's
know.
kind of scary.
I know.
But like
We have
if
a
you
whole
think about it,
movie about that.
that's interesting though.
And then another question we have, this is kind of like a personal question, but we're like really curious when it comes to like amazing industry professionals like yourself. But like what is one like setback like in your career that has really taught you a lesson?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I think this wasn't necessarily a setback, but it was something that took a lot of thought to navigate. So, coming out of my PhD, I had a big choice to make. Was I going to stay in academia and follow the postdoc route and become a professor and a researcher? I have been working on cancer research for pediatric cancers in particular, and it's an underfunded field. I was very passionate about it. I knew a lot of the clinicians and the researchers, and I felt like I had like started to make an impact. Then I thought, well, I could go to industry and I could do research in industry, a biotech company, that kind of thing. And I actually had not considered that government was an option until I realized that NASA had a space biology program. And I thought, well, that's just so different from what I was doing in my PhD. Maybe that's a good thing or not. And I had been interested, I've always been interested in extreme environment research. So when I had been applying PhD programs, I had applied to PhD programs that had either a space focus or a like Arctic focus. So like the two types of extreme environments. Um, so that was like intellectually appealing to me. So it really took some thought about what do I want my life to look like, and ultimately decided that the academic route was not right for me, for a couple of different reasons, and one of them I'll share was that I eventually wanted to have a family, and I knew that running a lab is extremely demanding, as it should be. And I knew that I wanted to be home more than I would be able to be in that position. But I still wanted that leadership aspect. So I decided to focus more on the computational side of things and work towards positions where I'd be able to lead computational teams and not need to be in the lab helping students. You know, you really have to be very focused on your lab. And so that took me to NASA and the space biology program, where I guess in terms of a setback, it was a shift. It was a very different field. Government is very different from academia, although very similar in some ways. It was a kind of a learning curve for about a year. It ended up being fantastic, but those decision points are so difficult and so important. Yeah, so that was a difficult kind of moment of making that decision.
So I guess it's really important to assess the pros and cons of every
Yeah.
decision you make.
So yeah, that whole like that one decision could have it would have changed your like whole entire life. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I have a lot